and welcome to a rather special video. Generally we do these IRL videos when I've done something mad in terms of buying a car. Guess what? I've done something mad in terms of buying a car. So, I might possibly have got something new. I might possibly have got something vaguely sensible. It's an estate car. Thing is, it is rather a super estate. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. And here is the car in question. An Audi RS6 Avant. This is a 2009 RS6. I will be honest, perhaps not my favourite styling. I actually very much like the newer RS6, the brand new one in fact, coming out. It looks absolutely fantastic. That being said though, this is still a pretty damn nice looking vehicle, and I opted for this era entirely because of the engine. It has a rather spectacular engine under the bonnet. That is a twin-turbo V10. Not what you normally find in an estate car. Incredibly tightly packaged. Bit of a pain to work on. Often the front end has to come off if work needs to be done on it. But it is a crazy engine to be shoved into an estate car, and it does sound rather excellent. So, let's start with the big question. Why did I pick an RS6? For this sort of money, there is an awful lot of options when it comes to high performance, relatively practical, it's an estate car, vehicles around. So why did I go for an RS6? Truth be told, this wasn't the initial plan. I'd actually quite enjoyed having the Lexus GS300. Don't worry, I still have that car. I still have a few more plans with that. But this will gradually take over as my sort of everyday vehicle. But my initial plan was to get a Lexus ISF. That was the car that I was looking at. I've always liked the ISF. It was always something a little bit different. You know, Lexus bulletproof reliability on the most part. The ISF was the one that I was intending on working towards. However, naturally, when you do a bit of car shopping, I wanted to have a look around and test some different vehicles. So I had a look at the performance, saloon section, shall we say. I had a go with an ISF, a C63 AMG, an RS6 Avant, BMWs, etc. And, well, as soon as I drove one of these, I knew this was what I wanted. The ISF is a very nice car, do not get me wrong. The ISF would probably still be my second choice. It was a very nice vehicle indeed. But this is just that little bit nicer. There is quite a bit more power going on in here. This is 570 horsepower, which is an awful lot for an estate car. The ISF has about 400, you got 415 or something along those lines. This is quite dramatically faster. The C63 wasn't too bad. It makes a fantastic sound, but was quite woefully equipped. Certainly the one I looked at, actually a year newer than the RS6, which I have got here, was awfully equipped. It didn't even come with, you know, inbuilt sat-nav, which for a C63 AMG seems a bit funny. I believe the facelift ones are better, but then you're going to pay more money. So, yeah, that was quite woefully equipped. The BMWs are nice, but it still don't match this in terms of, well, pure straight line speed. BMW is probably slightly better dynamically, if you like, but ultimately if I was looking for, you know, the ultimate in terms of handling, I'd be buying a Lotus. I was wanting a car that was a little bit more practical. Also, all the farm equipment is out again. You can tell I live in the countryside. What the bloody hell is that thing? Why has it got one wheel at the front? I hope this will go past the camera and it'll show what the... I don't know what that is at all. You're probably not going to show that very well. That seemed to have 3 wheels. There was 2. I've got very distracted, but that had 2 wheels at the back and 1 wheel. Some sort of heavy farmer. I don't know. The traffic's terrible and I'm going to blame the tractors. This is the fun of living out in the countryside. But anyway, yes, I tried a variety of different super saloons. As much as I do like the V10 BMW, I heard plenty of stories about them being, shall we say, less than reliable and very expensive to fix. I am aware if this goes wrong, also very expensive to fix. That's what happens with these sorts of cars. The engine bay is so tightly packed, if you need to do much to it, half the front end has to come off. Often the engine has to come out. It's not cheap. I did also get a quite fancy, expensive warranty added onto this, so for a couple of years I should be fairly good if something goes wrong. There was a reason why I went for that option. So, yeah, just the performance of this car is so much more. I also like it being an estate car. While it wasn't an absolute requirement to have an estate car, kind of had missed having an estate car after the Legnum. While, yes, the boots of the Lexus and Mercs and all of those were fairly decent, it doesn't quite beat the massive space, really, that you get in this. I do apologise, I was hoping to go and find, well, we were heading towards an interesting road, and then we got tractored. And then we've been stuck doing about 30 for most of the way down here. I did see a tractor pull over out of the way to let us all pass, which is why I think we're all in traffic. This is the fun and games of being out in the countryside. So, yeah, I looked at a lot of different cars. The RS6 was the one that took my fancy the most, and this particular generation, if you will, because of the engine. Because I wanted a twin-turbo V10. Who doesn't want a twin-turbo V10 at the end of the day? I mean, hell, this has more power than a lot of the ones that came after. I think barring, like, I think it's like an RS6 Plus Performance or something like that. I can't remember the full name of the later generation. This has more power than a lot of them. It's a ridiculous power figure. It's a crazy engine that really shouldn't be in an estate car. It's, I think, loosely based on the Gallardo engine. It's 5 litre V10. It's, I think, again, along similar lines to the R8 and the Huracan engine. In an estate car. It's brilliant. Who doesn't want that wacky combination? And when sat in traffic as we are now, it's all very normal. It's all very civilized. There's no real hint of just what this car is capable of. It's perfectly comfortable in here. I have the aircon set just right. We have heated seats. For example, if it happens to be a rather wet, cold day at Silverstone when you're watching the touring cars and want to try and get home, they're quite nice. It was quite a soggy day at Silverstone. I see why we're stuck. There are not just one, but 2 tractors. I didn't plan this particularly well. It's the first sunny day. In fact, it's the first day that's not been absolutely pissing it down in a week. But apparently, all the tractors have come out. Anyway, yes, it's a very easy car to drive, like a normal vehicle. I've got it sat in just normal drive. I'll let it do its thing, and yet there is no real hint to the true lunacy that this vehicle is capable of. There are 4 tractors that getting stuck trying to, what the hell is going on around here? I've said this before, there is never a dull day when I go out to film with a car, and apparently today we're going to have the day of the tractor. Regardless, we are actually going up to a fun road. It's a pleasant place to be, and if you're knackered after a long day and you just need to drive down a motorway for a couple of hours to get home, for example, it's not a tiring car to drive. It fits in car parks. I love the theory, do not get me wrong, but it's not really usable in some circumstances. It's brilliant, but for example, Tesco car park, it doesn't fit. Like, physically the spaces aren't big enough, and this will. It's still a big car, the Audi, but it will actually fit in a parking space. And when you do possibly get the opportunity, then you can make the most of the rather brilliant engine. We might finally be free of the many trucks. I say that, I'm going to turn down this bloody road, and we are going to get Tractor Central, and now we will use a little bit of the old manual gears that I can do here. Stick it down to second, and then go. It is so fast. It is so fast, unlike anything I have ever driven. And I will admit this, when looking at cars, there was a 700 horsepower RS6 that I very much liked and I very much would have bought, but it was too much money. I was hoping I could try and get the price down a little bit, but no, I couldn't get it down enough. That is otherworldly levels of fast. This is very quick. This is very quick indeed, and I have no doubt over time I will get this to that sort of power level, because with these engines that's not difficult. It's scary to say that, but 700 horsepower is not really difficult with these engines at all. A simple remap on the most part will do it. Remap, maybe a bit of exhaust, will get you to those sort of power levels. It's mad. Like when I was reading, you know, sort of reading reviews, reading about these cars, a number of people saying how easy it is to lose your license, or how easy it would be to lose your license with this car. It's that sort of level of speed. It does not take very much at all to be going a lot of miles an hour. Now, of course, I'm out on public roads. I'm going to be being sensible, but it's so fast. It is so brilliantly fast, and it's the surprise of the speed. That's what makes this car brilliant. It is the fact that it feels normal. It feels absolutely normal most of the time, and then you put your foot down. There have been a couple of occasions where I have gone to overtake something, and without sort of absent-mindedly thinking, just knocked it down, or still in auto, it knocked it down a couple of gears and just scared the absolute crap out of me because I wasn't ready for the speed that was going to go on with it. Unfortunately, that beep you hear is that the car has a little sensor in it. I say there's a sensor in it. The previous owner set it up that it'll ping when it gets to 70, which is a little bit annoying. So that's something that I will have to turn off at some point. It's a bit annoying, really. Yeah, the speed in this car is ridiculous. We're talking straight line speed in this. I very much like that. I very, very much like the straight line speed. Handling wise, it's not bad. You've got to bear in mind here, this is a 2-ton car. That is a lot of weight. Now, it doesn't feel as boaty as the Fury. This might actually be heavier than, it might be around the same weight as the Fury, actually. I mean, the Fury's a lot of metal but not much tech, so I don't know which one would be heavier. Either way, it's a big, relatively heavy car, this. Now, it's going to affect the handling a little bit. You know, ultimately, dynamically, this is probably not the fastest of the super saloons when it comes to a corner. That's okay. Because at the end of the day, if I wanted the best handling car for this sort of money, I'll be buying a Lotus Exige. I wanted a car that was able to be very, very practical as far as an estate car goes, and still be able to scare the crap out of you / surprise you when you put your foot down and make a glorious noise. Sadly, I say sadly, the standard, I guess this has a standard exhaust, it's actually quite quiet in here. Outside, lots of glorious noise. In here, relatively tame. I guess the soundproofing and whatnot does its job, and it is actually, yeah, surprisingly relatively quiet. Yeah, handling wise, it is a big heavy car, and you do notice it a little bit if you're going down a proper windy country road. But on the most part, you won't be getting anywhere remotely close to what the car is capable of. It has ample amounts of grip for what you'll be doing most of the time. And as I said, if I was looking for the ultimate handling machine, I'd be looking at a Caterham or a Lotus, because it weighs a tiny fraction of what this one does. Downsides, there are a few. First of all, petrol. Yes, this is, as you would imagine, very expensive to run. It's very, very thirsty. 20 miles a gallon is the official statistic, and you know what? I believe that. It is, yeah, thirsty. It is thirsty. You will get perhaps 300, 350 miles out of a tank, depending on where you are driving and how heavy a foot you have. Oh, there's too much traffic around here for fun times. But realistically, that's probably what you're going to be looking at. Long motorway journeys, you might get it up a bit more. Use your lead foot a bit too much, which is very tempting, and you could probably get it into single digits quite easily. It's a thirsty car, and to fill it will probably cost you the better part of 80, 90, maybe even £100. So it costs quite a lot to run. Will probably cost quite a lot when bits need fixing on it over time, potentially. I knew that when getting the car. At the end of the day, that doesn't bother me as much. I don't have to drive it every day. I don't have to use it as a commuter car. I use it for A, when I want to go for a drive, or B, you know, when you go to Tesco, or when you go wherever, when I go to the touring car rate, that sort of stuff. And it doesn't get used every day. So that, I'd say, doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me as much as it might. The flappy paddles that this thing has are mounted to the wheel. So as you turn the wheel, the paddles move as well. I'm not sure I like that particularly. Again, something that's not going to really affect you all that much. A lot of the time, here for example, I'm just going to leave it in automatic. It can do whatever the hell it wants. That doesn't bother me. When you get to a nice twisty road, that is when it might well get the better of you. I'm not likely to ever take this around a circuit. And at most twisty roads, you probably won't be doing enough crazy steering angle that'll say crazy, but yeah, you won't often find it that the paddles will not quite be where you expect them to be, but it's something to get used to. I would prefer that they were fixed, that they were mounted somewhere. Other things, the steering. So the steering has, I guess, variable weight. I don't know what the proper technical term is for it, but basically, when you are at very, very low speeds, i.e. manoeuvring around a car park, trying to go around a roundabout, whatever it might be, at low speeds, the steering becomes very light to make it easier to turn, and once you start picking up speeds, you get a much more weighted feel to the wheel, which is okay. Couple of times, it's kind of one of those that's a bit weird to get used to. There's a couple of times where I guess you're going just fast enough that it thinks, oh crap, we should probably have some weight to that. So you can go onto a roundabout and it's very light, and then all of a sudden it becomes an awful lot stronger, and it's a little bit odd. I'll get used to it, I have no doubt. And as I said, most of the time it does what it's supposed to. There's just a couple of bits when it doesn't necessarily. The gearbox on this, I will say, is fantastic. I guess this is the first proper flappy paddle gearbox. I had a sequential box, or not a sequential box, what would it have been? Semi-automatic, actually no, what it would have been in the Legnum, that was one where you could put it in drive, you could still, you know, do it yourself if you wanted to, and yeah, the gearbox does just about whatever you need it to. Driving along here, it'll currently sat in 5th, because we're stuck in more bloody traffic again. Yeah, it's perfectly okay with this. I have a couple of flicks of the paddles and we'll get it down to whatever. I'm not going to. I've got nowhere to go with any sort of momentum I might get around here. But yeah, I do like the gearbox, very much so. Yeah, all in all, really, really rather nice car. Really very, very nice car, this one. I'm very glad that this was the option, the route that I went. I'm very glad that I went down the line of the RS. I have absolutely no doubt I wouldn't have been disappointed, of course, with the ISF or any of the other ones that I looked at. They were all incredibly nice vehicles, but this is quite spectacular, I think, is the best way to put it. So there we go. I will hopefully have more stuff coming with this car in the future. I will try my best. I can't guarantee. I try to do more real-life videos. I'm just not very good at getting round to them. I also have a habit of breaking camera gear or it not working a lot, so there's that as well. Hopefully there will be more real-life videos with both this, the Fury, and with the Lexus, once that has become gloriously FailRace orange. Yeah, let me know what you might be interested to see. At some point when I've got a slightly more disposable GoPro, I will get some better outside car sound footage, because in here does not do the vehicle justice whatsoever. So yeah, we'll do that. However, that is going to be it for today. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.